Welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And I've traversed all the different regional parts of this country musically, the East Coast and the Midwest, the West Coast, and down in the South through Texas, the Gulf Coast, and down to the southeastern regions of the United States, and really one of the enclaves of regional music that just was bubbling at one time, came out of Oklahoma City, and this sort of, a bunch of very authentic, hungry cats who were great instrumentalists, but also suffering in some ways. Just as life presents itself, you get these challenges in life, and, the only way you really grow is through adversity. And, I'm talking specifically about Bill Maxwell, Harlan Rogers, Fletch Wiley, and Hadley Hawkinsmith. And these were all guys that were road dog musicians. Clearly they loved the music and it fed them spiritually, but they were kind of broken people. They were addicted to drugs and alcohol, and really, the road was eating them alive, and really the Holy Spirit, they actually devoted themselves to a life of following the Lord Jesus Christ, and did it in a very inclusive way, not in this sort of way that we experience now in our society where the vanity of man, they think they know who God is. God is a mysterious individual working in very mysterious ways. And these guys, each of them had their own journey, but ultimately it set them on a course where they were able to reach a level of transcendence in the music without using hard drugs. They're all still with us today. And three of them had a chance to collaborate with my next guest. I wound up stumbling into this record store in Tucson, Arizona, finding this crimson red copy of Second Coming, and I was like, what is this album? It looked ferociously funky, and I look on the back, and I'm like, this is like, and then I looked at the and I saw my guest, and I said, okay, so this is some kind of gospel-infused album, but maybe some funk to it. And then I started looking at the accompanist. I said, you have to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. And then I buy the record. I go home. I put it on. Both sides are absolutely scorching. And there is this one tune that now my brain is escaping. I'll have to look it up during the show. But they covered, as a band, Sunlight. They covered this tune. They recorded this tune as Sunlight, and my guest did it as a cover, and it swings so freaking hard. It's the funkiest album I've ever heard in my life. And I asked Fletch a few months ago, I said, do you know where my guest is? Because I really would love to catch a hang with him, and I don't even know how it all came about, but the Lord does beautiful things, and I'm very humbled today to be sitting here with my guest, Sherman Andrus. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, thanks, Jake. It's great to be here. I've been looking for that album myself.
Dude, it's gonna be very. I don't want to say this and not keep a promise, but I will. If you really can't find it, I will send it to you.
Well, yeah, I just want to make a copy of it. I did several moving things when I went to Hawaii and stuff. I moved every year while I was there, and I think I lost that album. But
no. By the way, it's called. By the way, the record was called not Second Coming, Soon Coming.
Soon Coming.
And the tune that just when I saw that you covered this tune, it really kept me afloat last year during some kind of darker times. It's called Walk in the Spirit. And that tune, man, is so... Now, I'm just curious, did you hear Harlan, the band they were in, cover that? How did you get hip to that tune? Did you hear their version of it? Because their version's amazing.
No.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is they pitched me some songs. See, I came to Oklahoma City from Nashville, and my reasons for coming to Oklahoma City was going to be, there was a record label here, and the owner of the record label wanted me to come here and just produce and be uh and help him get it off the ground with artists, with and I knew of Fletch and Harlan and Hadley and Bill. I knew of all of them. That's the reason I stopped in Oklahoma City, because I thought that I could do something with the talent, and not to even mention Kelly Willard and Bruce Hibbert were here. I mean,
those are, I mean, go ahead, continue.
Those were just, I was so excited about it because, obviously we could produce great music. Bobby Cotton was the engineer and producer, and those guys, the owner of the record label wanted me to do a song, to do an album, and that's where Soon Coming came in. And boy, I mean, the quality of the thing is out of sight, but the owner wasn't serious in promoting or doing anything with it. But it was just,
dude, it is I mean, there's like reggae infused stuff on there. I mean, the whole thing is just burning. But I have to go back.
Yeah.
I have to go back and just, I mean, I have to just get this on the table here. When did you first meet Andrae Crouch?
Oh, that was way back in the 60s.
Now, I just want to be clear about, I'll let you riff away, but the story that I've gotten, okay, is that Harlan, Fletch, or Max and Harlan and Hadley had started to play at this place called the Open Door Mission, which was kind of, and they were doing it for free. I mean, they were playing like ridiculous blues and jazz, burning stuff for people that were down on their luck, that they had no other place to go, or drunks and addicts, things like that. And then the story is that one day Andrae Crouch got wind of these guys and just walked in. But I'm just thinking to myself, did Sherman Andrus play a role in hipping Andrae Crouch to these cats? Because that changed their lives forever.
Yeah. Well, no, because that was long before Andrae. I was with Andrae from 1964 through 1970.
Oh, my God.
And we were
insane.
out in Los Angeles. And that's where I started my professional career. I was lead singer for Andrae Crouch and the Disciples on one album called Take the Message Everywhere. And during that time, it was just the four of us, Andrae, Billy Thetford, Perry Morgan, and myself. And Billy played the bass, and we had a drummer. But it was just a three-piece deal. And then I left Andrae probably about the middle of 1970, not to do anything, but my son had changed so much in the time we had toured. We were on kind of a semi-world tour with an evangelist. And when I came back, God has a way of troubling the water when you're not supposed to be somewhere. And I never any problems with Andrae or the guys in the group. We're all still friends, but I didn't want to travel anymore, I thought. And so I wanted to be a soloist and, just go out on weekends. Well, then the people who wanted to, the agents that wanted to book me said I had to have a band for them to book me. So I put together a little band that lasted 6 months, and I was done with it. And but I was still working and doing church concerts as a soloist. And then that's where the Imperials called me in 1971. They called me in about the last part of that year, either November or December. But had been with Andrae all that time, and I just felt it was time for me to do something else.
No, I I want to ask. I want to talk to you a little bit because this is revelatory for me. I mean, can you talk? You started with Andrae really at the beginning of what I would consider to be like the beginning of civil rights legislation, like '64.
Right.
There was a lot of like, and they made, I guess they amended things, and they kept for the next 10 years. There were lots of different civil rights movement things that were put in the Constitution. Can you talk, or the Bill of Rights? Can you talk about kind of the multi entertainment? What was like? Were you singing? You were on a world tour. Not only what were you singing about, but was it co-joined with the social justice movement?
No, it really wasn't. We were just doing gospel music, what we called gospel back then.
Which is no. Let's just stop that right. No, and so that's what I want. Tell me what gospel meant to that back then.
Well, we all grew up in traditional black gospel music, but what we were doing with Andrae back then was not the traditional. We were doing stuff like Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions.
Oh my! That is so hip though.
Yeah, but to tell you the truth, our audience was not black because the Church of God in Christ, the largest, and the Baptist churches thought we were too smooth, too vanilla for them because we weren't doing the hard gospel. So our audience was predominantly Caucasian and Hispanic.
Now this is, dude. I'm sorry. I think you're just dropping. So explain to me and the audience what the hardcore gospel that you were raised on. What was that? What was that kind of messages? What were those messages, and why was and why did they consider you too vanilla?
Well, because down south and most in all of the major cities, quartet music was the thing that got there. Quartet music, like, you ever heard of the Dixie Hummingbirds?
I was just thinking about them. Yep.
Yeah, the Dixie Hummingbirds, the Soul Stirrers, and Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers, and we had Claude Jeter and the Swan Silvertones.
Silvertones, that's right. So yeah, what was that? What were those messages?
Well, it was more of a earthy sound, like they give you an example. I don't want to sing, but I want to give you a example of how the sound was.
Sure.
Like there was Five Blind Boys of Alabama, Five Blind Boys of Mississippi. And the song was, oh, Lord, oh, Lord, we come down, real throaty.
I love, very earthy. I dig, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was, we didn't sing like that. We did real pretty stuff. And
I dig, I love it, man. So it was just very tasty and danceable, maybe even?
we did things like, we did a lot of falsetto, and it was and more because I was more of a crooner, and so Andrae, that's why I was the lead singer, because he wanted my style to come forward, and he would tell me, I'll do the hard stuff, you do the pretty stuff, and like There's Not a Friend Like Jesus, we'd say, instead of singing real hard, there's not a friend. We were like crooning it. There is not a friend.
Oh, man, you're making my day right now.
Yeah. And so, like, I was on Johnny Mathis's case back then. I mean, he wanted that sound like Johnny Mathis, and that's what I had. And so, we were well received but we weren't well received in the black churches because they thought it was just too pretty.
So,
We were ahead of our time.
no, it's so beautiful. Well, first of all, why? What was the connection between the sort of the black churches and a more, I don't know, Five Blind Boys of Alabama, or the throaty, organic, earthy, sort of dirty. I don't want to say dirty, but just like, why was that? Why did that resonate more in the black church? Was that more harkening back to field hollers and sort of
Yeah, it's more of how they responded to that because there was just nothing else there. You've heard of James Cleveland.
Absolutely.
Well, James Cleveland did choir stuff, but his voice is, I've never been to, I'm saying it was the ethos, the passion, and that's what the black audience was into. And even now, the black audience is into that more so than how we sang. You know, when Andrae added people to the group, of course, the music went sky high when Sunlight, when the guys, Harlan and all the guys got with him. But also, he became, when I left the group, he became more vested in black gospel because he had people like Danny Bell, Tata Vega, and all these, and Tremaine Hawkins even for a short period of time, so he could appeal to those people. And I joke about it. I have a book out, and I joke about the fact that I was holding him back with, with my pretty
yeah, no, it's funny. You're ahead of your time, but yet you're holding him back. It's funny, it's funny.
Yeah, I was holding him back, man.
Can you talk? I mean, can you talk a little bit about what was there? I mean, obviously changing up the way the song is sung is one thing, but what about the messages that were coming from the Swan Silvertones, or the more authentic stuff that the black churches were into? Was it different? Were you guys were you taking different. Like original? Were you singing in '64 when you like in those years? Were you singing original tunes? And if so, did they differ in messaging from what came before?
Yes, they did, because Andrae was really on fire for the Lord, and Andrae wrote very scriptural songs.
Wow.
And so even though it wasn't directly, it really appealed to the heart, like "The Blood Will Never Lose Its Power." That is a great song, and it's a singable song, and it's not something that the rhythm is going to do it, but the message was the thing. And all of Andre's songs had these great messages in them, but it wasn't just the emotion. They were all scripturally sound, and there are a lot of songs that talk like with the quartets, they'll sing songs that are passionate about losing their mother or their father, or about acts or things that happen in their lives that were not totally scriptural. They, you know what I mean? They're just like I laugh at the song because I used to sing it with my mom. A song that a group put out said, "The sun's gonna rise to the east." And I mean, like, how profound is that? Like, when has the sun ever rose in the west?
Right.
Right. And so, and the thing, this is what really got me. The second line says, and they do a 3.5 minutes song on a 3.5 minute tune on "The sun will rise to the east." It may be early in the morning, but I know the sun's going to rise to the east.
Mm.
Well, that doesn't make sense. But you could sing it with such emotion that people would respond to it. And these gospel groups knew how to invoke that passion. Like they would sing songs about losing their mother and stuff, and or mother's prayer, and someone whose mother just passed away is going to fall out.
Right, right. No,
uh,
I get it.
and so that is the difference. Andre's songs were more about scripture and drawing closer to God, and he would we were close friends, especially when I sang with him, and he would talk about people. There was that was a great singer. I think her name was Dorothy Mae Renfro, and she had this song about everything. I've given up everything to follow God. And Andre used to say, he said, that is so silly. He said, we don't have anything, we're all struggling. Like, what did you have to give up? It was not like you giving up riches or fame, all that. So he was very practical in how he wrote and very scriptural. And I think that was the difference in our group, because we sang scriptural songs that that could go over in any kind of church. The only problem we had was when because Andre was a great pianist, and people would, and some of the churches, they wanted us to tone it down a little bit, but that's it.
Dude, I am loving. First of all, were you hip to O.C. Smith's church out there in L.A.?
No, not at that time.
At that time, yeah. So, I mean, Sherman, I just want to ask you, this is just very interesting for history. Like, at the same time, paralleling you in New York, John Coltrane was sort of manifesting his modal period in music, where he was, sort of fusing, jazz with spirituality, spirit music, and maybe just playing one note for a long, and yet, the thing for me is that a lot of the audiences were white. It was not supported by his own people, or black, people with darker skin, and so did you ever, even though you're traveling the world, did you ever what was the closest you came to connecting with the black churches, or did that ever come about? I mean, to me, Andrae Crouch then, if as you see his career trajectory, I mean, he winds up with Max and all these guys, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's all, the music is beautiful, and I love it, but yet it's like, was he ever accepted by his own people?
Oh yeah, when he got the band and got all those singers that I named, he became more vested of a black gospel, and so he was truly accepted by everybody. And
but that didn't come till the 70s, you'd say.
Yeah, later in the 70s, when he did Live from London, that album, and he did, and the other one before that, it was at Carnegie Hall.
That's right.
That's the one that crossed him over, but he didn't before that, and he had the voices and everything. Like Tata Vega is one of the greatest singers you'll ever hear. And then he had all these other, Sweet Spirit of a group out of New York. So he became more vested in black gospel at that time. Like, I'm even now, after all these years, the only place I am known in the black gospel, or known as in the black what do you call it, in churches and everything, is up north. but like because I joined the Imperials,
Mm-hmm.
and we were predominantly a Southern group, and we did Midwest, and we'd go up to New York and do stuff. But what it was like, because I broke the color barrier in in Southern gospel music, it was like required listening for people in the North. They were very much aware of what I did, but down
Okay,
south,
wait, so just to go back, what do you mean you broke the color barrier? Take us through that.
well, when I joined the Imperials, there had never been a black person
Wow.
in a Southern gospel group, and I was lead singer for them. And that all these groups like the Oak Ridge Boys and the Imperials and all that, and it was a completely different circuit. And that's how I'm known now. If you Google my name, the first thing you'll see is the man noted for breaking the color barrier in Southern gospel
Wow.
music.
That is
Because
unreal.
Southern gospel was all these quartets and everything, and all night sings and all that stuff, and it was completely different from what I did with Andrae. And to be honest with you, I never knew I was doing that. I didn't join the group necessarily to break the color barrier. I joined the group to push myself because they were great singers, and I wanted to know, because my wife, I brought all the albums home, and my wife said, "Why are you going to sing that?" And she said, "Are you going to do that?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Why?" I said, "I want to see if I can do it," because to me, it was just the chance or the to really do something different. I didn't have my head in the sky worrying about breaking down barriers as much as I wanted to push myself as a singer. And so what they did, they're great singers, did a lot of a cappella stuff. And we didn't do that in Andre and the Disciples. And I wanted to push myself as a singer. And I wanted them to be able to carry over all of their old stuff and still do the new stuff. I'm credited more with turning them into a contemporary group, but it was done, little at a time. But I had no, it's strange how life is, because one of my hero was Jackie Robinson,
Sure.
and he broke the color barrier in baseball. And here I, I was that was my biggest hero, and here I got a chance to do it in gospel music, and that's still what I'm known as right now.
Can you, in my mind, you've been talking so eloquently about the messages within the songs. Why did we turn as a society to, from like more sort of, when it comes to gospel sanctified music, today's gospel music, it's all worship music. And it wasn't like that in the when you it was more there was more mystery to it. There was more a mystical quality to it. It was just today there's so much vanity and worship, and why there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just, can you talk about how,
Well,
yeah.
I agree with you on it. The thing it is, the even all the groups, the white groups, and I mean all of the contemporary groups that went forth years ago, what we were trying to do was be evangelical.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we had all those different styles. We were trying to peak or to really prick the personality, prick their interest in or pique their interest in what we were doing. That's why when you listen to all of our albums back then, you had all these different styles, because we wanted people to listen to it,
I love it.
and to sneak the message in. Now we did all this work in evangelism because we were, in fact, evangelists. And now that we have a great crowd of people who are Christians that we all help to bring in, now everything is to the body of Christ. Nothing is to the world. There's no evangelism in the praise and worship music. It's just, and I think just personally, it's very ambiguous. That's why you have to have all these things up on the screen,
That's right.
because everything is bent. It's not musical, it's not poetry, and so
Wow.
and so that's the thing. It's like, even at my church, I go late because I don't want to sing those ambiguous songs, and it doesn't minister to me. But everything is like that, though. You have to understand that's human nature, because the stuff that they're playing is just 70s rock, and all the stuff that they hated us for doing. That's the mainstay of the church now. That style of music, except that it's not done as well. I'm serious.
No, dude, I'm laughing
well.
because you're explain how artistically and musically it is deteriorated.
Because it's not built on the music. It's like the music is secondary.
Totally.
Yeah, it's like I got to get these words in, and most of the songs, I don't think there really should be songs. It's just like a conversation with the Lord. You don't have to put that to music, because it doesn't. Every now and then, 1 in 10, you'll have a wonderful singable song, but most of them are not singable. And it's what we try to do is, and I forget that. I mean, I've been on the road where people with guys in our band, and the guys tuning the guitar, and the person will come down from the back of the church and tell them, "I know what you're doing, that devil music," And now you go to any church, and all they have is guitars and all that stuff, and nobody cares. That's the mainstay of the. And I have a friend who has a church in Alaska. It would be blasphemous to sing a hymn, in his church, because he thinks, and a lot of them just think it's hip, like that. You can't sing that old stuff, man. Listen, that's what sustained me,
dude.
and
I mean, that is to dismiss that is absolutely an injustice. You can't just dismiss it.
Yeah, and these people were writing beautiful things. When I toured with Elvis the concert, from about 1997 to 2010, where they had Elvis on the big screen, and all of us who were friends knew him and all that stuff. We are live, and a full orchestra and everything. And the biggest response of the night came when Elvis would say, when they show Elvis saying, "Oh Lord, my God," those people, secular audience now, would stand up and hold their hands up like they're praising God.
Wow.
That is the anointing of the song. That's how anointed the song is. And so we've lost a lot. I'm cool with everything, because God has just blessed me. I've had tragedies in my life. That I lost my son 7 years ago.
I'm sorry.
Just lost my wife in December, and I'm here alone. But we had a great life together. We had 55 years together, and God has met every need in my life. But I'm still evangelistic. You know,
What does that word mean? I want you to explain what that word means to you. Like what that sounds to me like inclusivity and like worldly to you. That word has gotten very perverted in our culture. What does
yeah.
that mean to you?
Well, it means that you're trying to reach the lost. You're not just entertaining the troops.
I dig.
That's what I feel like we're doing
Yeah,
now.
I dig.
Churches grow exponentially now because
Yeah.
it's you're entertaining the troops,
Well, but that I mean
and you
that in itself, I mean that is what you just talked about. I mean, did you actually like I don't know what the right word is. I mean, I just feel like not to get into politics, but the moral clarity of the church is missing because of this entertainment that you speak of. It's more about entertainment, filling the coffers,
yeah,
raising money. It has nothing to do with morality or what they supposedly talk about what the Bible says. They don't. The people that they support to lead us forward as a supposedly free nation are contradictory to everything that's going on in the Bible. It's very weird.
right.
It's
Well,
very,
the
and I don't,
thing that
I don't know. I mean, I wonder how you. I just feel like maybe in some ways, and it's very hard to do this, but you know, you have many chapters left to live here, Sherman, and I think one of them is to, if you care about people, tell them what they don't want to hear. I think that's a big problem in the church. Is the groupthink is so strong, and if you tell them something that they don't want to hear, then you're out.
well that has happened with me in my book. The book says my story, his song, blessed.
Yeah.
But I address the fact that, like with all the crazy stuff, and I don't like to get into it,
No.
but the biggest supporters of everything President Trump did was the church.
I know, and that's and that's one of the major reasons he still has so much support. Is these
Yeah,
is
and I
yeah.
mean, and unequivocally they support him. And the fact is, like I lost friends when, you know, be, when President Obama was elected, like I had something to do with it. You know,
Jesus.
hey, the thing that is what people don't understand is I wish that presidents would initiate or put into place some of their ideas that they campaign about. But there's very little change except you can stoke the fears, of your people, and you can divide us more. But it's so hard to get us to make us be inclusive. That is the hardest thing because I've lived that life. There are places I've sung here in Oklahoma City because I sing in nursing homes and I make a joke about it, but I want to keep my chops. So I sing in nursing homes and stuff, and I joke about it and said, when you are an old R&B singer or rock and roll singer, there are hundreds, literally hundreds of casinos around the country that you can sing in. I say, but as an old gospel singer, you sing in nursing homes, and I laugh at myself. And so the point is, you have to have a sense of humor to keep going. You have to laugh at yourself.
Totally.
And I do that. But one of the things that gets me is even in the nursing homes, there's prejudice. Like I'll go into a nursing home and I've gone into and done a great job and everybody loves it. Then I become persona non grata because there's still segregation in the body of Christ more than any place else in the world.
Can you talk? This
Because
is so important. What do you mean? You go in, you do the best job you can, and yet then you become persona non grata based on the fact that you're talking or singing about inclusivity?
no, because I'm black.
Well,
And
that's
I'm
a
in
whole.
all,
Well, that see that. Let
yeah,
me. This is so Sherman. I want you to just talk. The floor is yours. I'm not talking about, you know, alcohol. Going. Being down and out and drug riddled and alcohol riddled and finding Jesus or something. I'm talking about, is there a passage that you're aware of, some scripture that talks about being duped and fooled and led down this path, and yet being able to actually just be able to step back and not and let your and get your ego out of the way and recognize that you can course correct. It seems to me like people's, and not just in the church, but yes, the evangelical base is so locked in. They don't want where in the scripture does it says you may not want to see the elephant in the room, but you need to see the elephant in the room. Is there anything like that in the Bible?
no, I'm trying to
And
conjure it up.
if there's not, it's okay. But that to me is the crisis, where it's like they're so far down the toxic rabbit hole. They don't have, they have the shame of them actually acknowledging. Obviously, there's probably a ton of money wrapped up in it as well. But it's this idea of, dude, I mean, at some point, if you're staying on the righteous path, then you have to see the truth, like the
Right.
truth. And I just wonder, and if there's anything, because I'm the farthest thing from a biblical scholar, and a lot of the stuff that even Andrei sings about in the '70s, like it's so steeped in the Bible. I still don't really. It's over my head, but yet I often wonder how people can really live with themselves if they're in denial, if they're consistently living a completely non.
But
Yeah.
but that's the way it's always
Yeah, I
been.
guess I'm just a
See,
naive bumpkin, man.
no, well, here's the thing for me. I grew up in Louisiana, and I grew up where I grew up in segregation.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't go to I had to go to a black school. Everything was segregated. Couldn't drink in certain water fountain and all that. Go to a separate restroom and all that. And my heart yearned for somebody, anybody on the other side. I'm saying non-black, to say, "Hey, that's wrong. We shouldn't do that," or at least question it. Nobody ever said one word,
Wow. Jeez.
and I don't know where else to go. I'm saying, there, where can I go but to the Lord, because I believe in Jesus Christ, and so I could. But if there was an alternative, He's the only one that offers us salvation. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I accepted that, but I never understood how people could just be so cruel. And I mean, my dad worked like crazy, man. My dad could run everything at that shipyard, but he never became foreman.
Sure. Sure.
It was just a cruelty that existed, that I fought, because I guess I was more sensitive than all my brothers and sisters, because my parents expected more out of me and I'm the fifth child. But all of these things were so, uh, they were appalling to me, that why can't we just love each other? Why can't I be treated just like anybody else? And even when I joined the Imperials, man, I had rough times. And even when I joined the group, they were not used to being around a black person. So they would leave me at the hotel. They'd put me up in a hotel, and then I would see, and I wouldn't see anybody for a week. And then when we'd leave on that Saturday, Friday, or Saturday. I'd see them, then they put me back in the hotel. I wouldn't see anybody, and so consequently, I became a loner. But that wasn't my personality.
You're
That
you're
was
you're
forced.
saying you're saying that if you had a weak engagement, that they you'd stay at one motel, they'd stay at another.
No, they would be home. We'd be in Nashville, and they would put me up in the hotel, and because I hadn't moved there yet,
Okay.
and they would, and they would be with their families and everything, and and then they call me when they're going to pick me up for the next gig, and that doesn't bother me. But man, I don't have.
There was never any like, hey man, why don't you come over and have dinner or like
Yeah,
hang? Yeah,
it was
no, yeah. I mean that makes actually it's making me kind of sick, man. I am so
that's
proud.
the way it was. The first person who invited me into his home, you remember Jake Hess?
I don't know that name.
Well, Jake Hess is a great Southern gospel singer.
Wow.
And he was the first person to invite me in his home. And had nothing to do, he used to be he was the originator of the Imperials. But he invited me in his home. And the second one was the bass singer for the Jordanaires. They are the ones who backed up Elvis on all his early stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
And his name was Ray Walker. But those are the two homes I was invited in.
Sherman. I mean, we have a game on this program called Name That Voice, and I don't expect you to know who it is, but pay attention to the content, and we'll come back and break it down.
All right.
I'm sure there's progress made. How do you measure that? That seems to be an issue for historians. But there's no question that the tables are still not equally balanced. And again, as long as you have people who feel that I am a threat to their survival, there will always be difficult times ahead. There's no way I can convince them, or do I have the time or energy to convince them that I am not a threat to their well-being. I don't spend time really giving that a lot of thought.
What are you listening to? That was an interview I did with the legendary bass player Ron Carter. You hip to Ron?
No, I'm not familiar with him.
So, I mean, Ron Carter was, he's the most recorded upright bassist in the history of modern music. So he came out of Detroit, wound up with Miles Davis, and the list goes on and on. But the point is he grew up in a family, 8 kids, 2 parents. He'd go into a store, convenience store. His white counterpart would go in, get something for $2. He'd walk in, buy the same thing, it'd be $4.
Right.
Like it was just this. You had to face it, like it was just right in your face, and it was very cruel. And I just wanted you to talk to people, Sherman, about in the midst of all of that sort of cold, hard injustice and bias and racism. Can you talk to cats who are feeling the same, those same kind of feelings? Believe me, you got to believe today people of color are feeling that, being trapped in a box, the same kind of stuff, especially with the judicial system and all types of different things. How to channel that frustration and sensitivity into something that will allow people to see who you really are and actually maybe inspire people to open their hearts.
Well, it's a very difficult thing to do. I've kind of traversed it because I am not pushy at what other people would perceive as push. And before I joined the Imperials, I worked at Travelers Insurance, and my boss, the person over me, was black, and he would say to me just about every day, he says, "I've never seen anybody walk in a room and everybody likes him like you. You said you're so disarming, and he would really make a joke about it. He'd ridicule. He said, "I guess they've never been around a black person that they could understand." And the fact is, I believe that you have the ability to change things. And this is going to sound scary, but what we feel like in the church is that the anointing is used in the church. But once you leave the church, you're not anointed. In
Mm.
other words, you don't walk in that realm. Well, that's not true. If you are a great salesman, you don't have to be a Christian. But if you're a great salesman, that gift of anointing, that God has given you that gift to sell,
Hmm.
cars
I
and
did.
stuff
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That is an anointing. And I feel like that has been a part of my life is that, and it's, it doesn't mean I don't ever have people come against me, but it's very hard for a person, you may not like me or anything, and I don't force myself on anybody, but I don't feel threatened by anything. I know the score, and I just treat people how they want to be treated. I always got great jobs, even though I don't have a college education. Before I went full time in the ministry because I looked right, I know how to dress, I talk right,
Right.
and I never, my afro wasn't too big. It's just
I did.
subtle
I mean,
things.
it sounds, dude. I'm saying it's just, it's just. I don't know. I don't. I'm actually. I'm actually. I have no words, man. It's really. It's hard. It's just hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so you have to know what your opposition is thinking. If you go in and even with the Imperials, we would go places. I used to Armand Morales, the bass singer. We would drive in tandem, and we'd stop at a place, even on west, out west. We'd stop at a place to get a room, and they would want to give the room to Armand and his wife, but not to me and my wife. You know, and it takes a certain degree of uh, of restraint or restraint to not be discouraged because I mean it's in every aspect of our life, and I don't talk about it because people think you are complaining or whining. And let me tell you this because I want people to understand
Please.
this.
Yeah.
I've been all over the world. I've been to every continent but Antarctica, and I'm going in next year.
That's awesome. That is
But
awesome.
let me tell you
I
this.
don't know if there's
eh,
any. I don't know if there's any nursing homes out there though.
No, but I'm going to figure out
I
something to
know. Yeah.
pay
Go
for
ahead. Yeah.
that.
No. No. What are you gonna say? Say it.
No,
Yeah.
but with all of our faults here in the U.S., it's still the greatest place in the world to live. And I'm telling you,
And why? Explain
it
why. Explain why.
because you
Especially,
have
especially if you're a person who's not white.
well, because there are safety nets here. You know, you you know why we have to build fences to keep people out? Because third world people see the possibilities here.
Sure.
That's why. You don't see people building fences trying to keep people out of Russia. They're not trying to. This is the only country in the world that people can, and I know people who come from Africa, people who come from Mexico, you name it, and pretty soon they figure out the system, and pretty soon they own their own business, they got a nice home and everything. It takes sacrifice, and I think our biggest problem, not only in black and white, is that we don't want to put in the work. You can't, we'd rather figure out. I look at those judge shows, and nobody's working. Most of the people.
Well, well, I mean, we don't make anything in this country. There's no jobs.
Yep. That's what. Hey, the people are going crazy trying to hire folks now, man. Don't let people fool you.
No, I'm with you. I just wonder about, like, you know, it's remarkable. Like, you're telling me that you have experienced this kind of that you've had to show restraint in everywhere else in the world. The prejudice is as strong everywhere else in the world as here.
Oh no, yeah. It isn't. No, in Europe, the prejudice is not the same. There's prejudice everywhere, but not on race.
That's right. That's right.
In Europe, if you come in to take somebody's job, and they feel like you come to take their job, yeah, but it's not on the color of your skin. And here, the prejudice is based solely on the color of your skin, and that's the difference. Like I really do well in Europe. I mean, I love I love experiencing all the different countries. As a matter of fact, I'm treated better than non-blacks in Europe, because they, for some reason, especially in France, my wife was treated like a queen, but the other guys' wives were not. You know.
Yeah, I think those certain places, and the jazz guys were another example, because a lot of them wound up living and moving over there. I mean, there is racism everywhere, prejudice, but those guys were seen for their genius. They were seen as, you know, exactly. as they had nothing to do with their skin. They were like, wow, these cats are the hippest cats, you know. And so, like, that's why you had Dexter Gordon and Johnny Griffin and all these jazzers be like, not only am I going to be compensated for my work, I'm considered a genius. You know, I mean, they don't.
Yeah, you're celebrated. Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean.
Yeah, and so that is the thing, you know, but there is a degree that, you know, everywhere you go, you know, even like I went to Germany just after the wall came down. The Berlin Wall.
Yeah, like 88, 87, something like that?
I think it's 87 or 88.
Yeah.
And what happened, I went a year later, but what happened was there was prejudice between the two Germanys. Like the East Germans would go into places and not pay their bill and something, and say because the West Germans were spoiled by the West, you know, United States and Britain and all of them helped.
Right.
And the East German and the West Germans thought that the East Germans were lazy. Well, why would they work hard? They're not going to get anything. They're under communism, you know. And it's like one side of the wall was in Technicolor, and the other side was gray. That's just how it was. And so there will always be prejudice. You know, people will exercise that. But the point is, I just don't want this overt, you know, keep your thoughts to yourself and just treat everybody the same way. And I just, if I couldn't live here, I'd probably live in Australia. I really loved Australia. But you know, my life was changed in 1969 when I went to Indonesia, and it is the largest Muslim country in the world, population-wise, and I saw what real hopelessness was, and it changed my life because I saw people in the capital, Jakarta, Indonesia. There's a river that runs right through it. One part of the river, you see people fishing. One part of the river, you see people crapping in it. One right down the line from that, you got people cooking in it. Wow. You know, it's just, we don't realize that, you know, this is the best this is your best chance for success.
No,
Is
I
to
mean,
do that.
this is, my God, what an honor. You know, Sherman, can you talk about, did you say you went to you were in Nashville at some point?
Yeah, I lived in Nashville for three
So,
years.
so, were you, how did you originally meet Harlan and Max and Fletch and Hadley?
When I came to Oklahoma City, I came to Oklahoma City in 1976, and they were all here. And all of them appeared on, well, Hadley, Harlan, and Fletch appeared on my albums. But I think they had just left Andrae at that time, and they were back here. But
Can you talk about like how that, um, uh, I guess just in general, like did you have a chance to play with them in a live setting? That to me, like those guys are some of they're monster musicians, you know. And I mean that record,
they are.
you know, like the studio, like that record is so freaking amazing. Soon coming.
Well,
and I'm just sort of figuring. Did Sherman wind up on the bandstand with those cats?
No, I never did. I never sang with them. I just sang with them in the studio. I worked with them because I was still, even when I came here, right after I came here, we started Andrus Blackwood and Company in March of '77. And
what was that? Now, what was that?
Andrus Blackwood and Company we were members of the Imperials. We were co-lead singers of the Imperials. And the Imperials, the Benson Company out of Nashville, lost the Imperials to Word Records in Waco, Texas.
Got it. Yep.
And they wanted someone to appeal to that same demographic. And so then they got us. They put together a group with me and my friend Terry Blackwood, and actually we never wanted to tour or do anything, but they even had a contest to name the group, and that's how we got our name, ABC, Andrus Blackwood and Company, because the company is the one who sponsored us, and they told us all we had to do was record, and we didn't have to tour. Well, that was a lie. After the album came out, they wanted us to tour. So it, you know, and we were together 9 years, and we had great success.
I need you to talk to me about this album, I've Got Confidence. I mean, how did that come about?
Well,
because that was Oh, there's a couple questions. Andrae, you never. When was your first time in the studio? Did you record with Andrae in L.A. or was that album, I've Got Confidence, your first time in a recording studio?
No, we had recorded a full album with Andrae Crouch and the Disciples.
What was the name? What was the name? Yeah.
It was called "Take the Message Everywhere."
Wow.
And that was it was on Ralph Carmichael's
yeah, like
label.
on like Light Record. I love that.
Light Record. Yeah. That's what it was on. And then the people in Nashville, the Benson label, Benson Hardwarming label, they heard the group and they really liked the group, Andrae Crouch and the Disciples, but we were already on Light. And Bob McKenzie was the producer for the Benson Company, and he saw us in concert, and he saw the response I got from the kids, because I looked younger than what I was, because I'm small, and so the teenagers, we were treated like a rock group.
It was like the Beatles, man.
Yeah, right. And so what happened was they offered me a solo contract to do that album, and Andrae wrote the songs for it, and that's how that album.
Who was so what do you remember the accompanists that played with you on it, like the rhythm section or anyone like that?
It's on the album. I don't remember all of them. I know Clark Gassman was on piano,
Right.
and I'm trying to think who was on drums and bass. But all the backup singers was Andre's from the Kojics, the first group he had.
Yeah, I'm looking.
And I love
Is
that.
it Clark Gassman? I'm not seeing other. Wow, that's incredible. So the take the message, dude. I got to be honest. I mean, Andre Crouch records. You see him quite. I mean, some of them got pressed millions of times. So some of them you see everywhere, and some are less frequent. Take the message everywhere. I've never seen that album.
It has a new cover now.
It does because the
because
cover. I can see you the young Sherman. I can see you on this. Just that cover I've never seen. So okay. So it's a new cover.
There's another cover that Andrae, when I left the group, Word Light Records changed the cover.
They reissued it with a different cover.
Yeah,
Wow.
So you won't see that one if you have the one with me on. That's that is the original one.
Yeah, man. This one. I mean, unbelievable stuff. I mean, outside of Andrae, well, especially in Nashville, were you able to connect? Did you have any opportunities to play or even tour when you were there?
Was I able to tour?
Yeah, or just did you because there was like I mean, that place was humming as a recording scene. I just interviewed Norbert Putnam, all these guys, David Briggs and Kerrigan, and that's a whole, and to know. So what were you doing studio work as a singer there, or what kind of?
No, the Imperials were based there.
I see.
And we did some things. We backed up some people, and we did television from there. We had the sausage guy, Jimmy Dean, had a syndicated television show, and it was a who's who in country music.
Oh, dude, don't even tell me you were on that program.
Yes, I was.
Oh man, that is classic.
Yeah, 52 shows it did, and that was fun. But I've been exposed to a lot. I'm overexposed now.
Yeah, so when you guys you recorded when you were with the Imperials, looks to me, I mean, you recorded several albums with them. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I at least 6 albums with them.
I just wanted you to talk to younger cats, especially. It doesn't matter going back to with Andrae or the Imperials. How did you learn? A lot of times with like big bands, the Woody Herman band or Kenton, if in the horn section, for instance, they might just have one microphone, and so they had to they had to self balance themselves. They had to figure out, and I just wonder, when you were working as a singer, especially with Andrae, I mean, you definitely were playing out of antiquated PA systems. It was not state of the art. I'm just curious about how you learned to blend vocally as a group, maybe just using life force and soul as opposed to screaming, because you probably only had one mic.
Yeah, sometimes we had, and some, 1 or 2 mics. Well, Andrae had one on the piano, and then we had the other one.
Right.
But it's something you learn from singing together for a long period of time. But I'll tell you this, that's even more disturbing than what you're talking about.
Go ahead.
The first time I recorded in Glendale, California, I can't even remember the studio. Uh, but Whitney Studios. Lauren Whitney was a great organist, and he had a studio in Glendale, California, 4-track studio.
This is
That's
what
right.
year? What year was this?
That was in the early. That was like in the mid '60s.
Yeah, that was before Take the Message Everywhere. That was your first studio gig.
Yeah,
It was like
but
a
even
demo or
on,
something, or I don't even know. That is insane.
no, even on no, that was Take the Message Everywhere. That's when we first did that.
And you did it at Whitney Studio.
Yeah,
Yes.
and let me tell. Oh, I think we did the song Without a Song. That's me singing that,
Wow.
and that was in another studio because we had all the instrumentation there. But I want to show you how things have changed. When we first started recording, there were no earphones.
That's right. Yes.
So what they did is they played the music softly in the corner, and you had to sing to it.
What?
You know, they didn't want it to bleed into the microphone. So and that was the hardest singing I ever did. And the reason I did, what is the song?
Without a song?
Without a Song, I did that in one take because I was in there with all the musicians and surrounded by sound, because I hated that thing where they play the music softly. And that
I want to be clear. Hitting with everybody in the room is such the magical thing, and such a sorely it's one reason music is where it's at today. It's just that lack of humanity in the room. But are you telling me that the rhythm section would come in, cut the track, and then they'd play it off? They'd play it like softly off a record player, or the rhythm?
No, they play it. They play the tape, the 2-inch tape, softly, on a speaker, like away from you, softly, that it wouldn't bleed into the microphone that you're singing into. That's
just the instrumental tracks, and then you would sing, or they were actually like they were singing the lyrics but very softly.
No, it would just be the instrumental track.
Wow.
And then you would put
that is so hard to do, especially if you can barely hear the music.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so afraid of that, man. So when they told me I could sing with the whole with the ensemble, I hit every note.
I bet you did, dude. You knocked it out in one take, man.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Let me ask you
that is the hardest thing, because I had trouble with my pitch when I had to do it with a soft deal.
Well, I would never ever be able to. I mean, not that I'm a singer, but that would be the most irritating thing ever.
Well, it was, and I really struggled with that. I had trouble. I didn't think I was good in the studio, but I was more of a live performance guy. I didn't like singing in the studio until I got the hang of it,
Sherman, do you feel like, everyone's gone through adversity, and I'm 43, and we all grow from it, but can you say that do you receive royalties for all the stuff that you have created, or publishing wise? Like, have you been treated as? It is the music racket. There is.
Are you kidding?
No, I know, but I just, it's going to break my heart if you're going to tell me that you've been ripped off so much.
Well, we don't make anything off of what we did. It's we just don't. And
because like with Jim Morrison, and Jim Morrison was like to the Doors, he's like, I can't write it. I this is my poetry, but I can't write music, so we're all going to be in on this, and like
Mhm.
Garcia, Jerry, some band leaders were like, "No, we're going to publish as a unit." Andre didn't.
Mhm.
That was never part of the equation, or
Oh
what?
no,
Yeah,
All of Andre's was Andre's, and we never got anything on it. And even songs later in my career, I started writing a lot more. But I never made anything on my writing. Just about everything I made came from personal appearances because nobody really promotes you. I'm saying it's not like I'll give you an example.
sure,
Gloria Gaynor had that big song "I Will Survive," and she, could live off that one song, and she's a
absolutely.
millionaire. But we never had that. We never made that kind of money. We were never treated like the secular stars. For instance, the Imperials was the uh, biggest group on the label of the Benson Company, but they would never turn over and say, "Here's $50,000, bring me back an album." But when they would, I think they hire people, they get people like Johnny Rivers and Billy Preston, and they give them the money and say, "Bring me an album." But we were always treated like second class citizens. Uh, and I really I didn't know I was good until I went to Kansas City and I did a couple of commercials for a guy who was from Minneapolis, and I remember singing the tenor section professional with the professional studio singers, and then he had me double the sopranos with my falsetto because he said that he wanted a thicker sound. And all of these people came up to me and they asking me how I could do that with my voice and all, and but I was never revered, I think, in gospel. They just don't treat you as they treat you like, as I said, a second class citizen. It's like the people in the world when you do things for people when every time I did something that was in the secular realm, I got so many compliments and people appreciated me. But in gospel, there's not that kind of appreciation.
That is. I mean, I just. Uh, I mean, I do this for a living, and I feel like I should know why. But like, I mean, didn't the company for the Imperials want a radio friendly hit? I mean, wouldn't they want to make money, or they just always looked at
Yeah,
nonsense?
but they're not going to put money into you. They give you they what they do is you put your record out and you have to run the wheels off a bus to
Yeah,
make money
yeah,
on it.
right,
Like there were a couple
right.
of years with the Imperials where we did between 200 and 225 dates. That's a lot of
No, but
singing
you were
because
that's like Jack Teagarden and Stan Getz back in the day. I mean,
oh man, we couldn't make it. And so it was a hard
what kind of touring? I
deal.
got to be honest. Was it? Did you ever play on a secular bill with cats? Like, did you ever wind up with Sly Stone or like
Oh
was?
no, we
So I
we
mean, you're
didn't do
paying
anything.
250 dates a year. What kind of venues are you playing?
Well, we played a lot of state fairs. We did colleges and stuff like that, and we did things with country singers at fairs and all that. But we just ran churches, and so we ran the wheels off the bus, and
Did
it
you
was
did you
just
ever play any upholstered sewers or bars or not? No liquor could be sold or like did you ever?
no. We never played in. We always played in. The closest thing we came to that would have been the college scene.
Right. Amazing. 200
Well,
something gigs a year and no bars, no clubs.
no, and see, the point is, I am blessed to still be here, man, because I worked hard, and I'm still singing, but I have worked, and I never it as they say, we came on the rough side of the mountain. It's just something that you love, and you don't think about it until it's all over. But in retrospect, now I look back on it, and I enjoyed everything I did. But I'm not kidding. It was hard because the only respite we had was when we would go to Las Vegas. We would back up Jimmy Dean, and we would be at the Desert Inn, which is now Wynn's. We would be there a month at a time, and that was the easiest thing we ever did because you don't know traveling, and you did 2 shows a night, no days off. But it was easy.
Well,
But
it
that
must
was easy.
you probably some decent bread too, right?
Well, we made the same amount. I mean, we never made big money.
No, I'm not even saying, but it was steady bread, right? I mean, you could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
steady. It's steady. You get, but it was never the kind of money that compares to what secular people did. It paid the bills, but to be honest with you, I'm doing better now than I ever did when I was singing. It's just amazing.
And you're in the ministry now, is that right?
No, I'm still singing, but I have a lot of support from people in the community who've been blessed by my ministry. A lot of support from my my nephews, who are very successful business wise, and they said that I'm the one that showed them that they could do something else with their lives.
That is so freaking, dude. You deserve everything that comes your way, man. That is so awesome.
Because I took a chance, to do something, and and everybody else, all of my brothers and sisters, they got steady jobs, and I was always one person working. My wife did not work outside of the home. Every now and then she did something, but I was able. I did, and I used to tell her all the time that I'm a hero for not losing anything. Not going bankrupt.
No, man, dude. But yeah, man. You know what? And that kind of pressure and stress. It's exhausting. So it's amazing that I can't even imagine that, man.
Because when you were in, especially when I became a soloist, you don't have, like the guy working, let's say he's working for a regular 40-hour job. He knows he's going to get so much money every week. Well, I had no idea, and I'm the only one working. And so God has miraculously blessed me, and we live great. People thought we were wealthy because my wife knew how to spin. But I'll give you an example. I had a son in college at Pepperdine. He's under 25, and I'm paying his car note and his insurance, and then taking care of all my bills. So, and he's at Pepperdine, and that's not exactly a cheap school.
No, it's not.
So I think I've done pretty well.
Sherman, let's definitely do set 2, man. I'm so honored to be able to connect with you, and this will serve as, in my mind, a really beautiful historical document of your career and your life. But I really feel like on this journey, we are all one human race. We're all connected.
Man, that's right.
And just the love. My hope is that I recognize you can't change anything in the world, but you can change your world, and so I try to do that in my best. When I'm in a good place, I try to lead with my heart. I can't say I always do it.
Amen.
But that's it, man. And I feel like you've always done that too, man. So I had such a good time, man.
I've had to, and I've been so blessed in spite of everything. I'm living my dream. So Give me a call when you're ready to do the number 2.
Yo, man, I will send you a copy of this later today. And again, all you're going to need to do is click on the link, and you'll be able to figure it out. If you can, I just want you to be able to have this. I want you to be able to share it with your family, and we'll do it again, man. And you know what? I mean, if you give me your address, I'll send you that soon coming, man. I think.
Okay, let me give it to you. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's 2620 North Brenda, a girl's name, Brenda Avenue, Bethany, as in B as in boy, Bethany, Oklahoma, 73008.
2620 North Brenda Avenue, Bethany, Oklahoma, 73008.
That's it, man.
Do you have a CD player or
I have a CD player and a regular one.
What was I going to say? If I can transfer it from vinyl to CD, can I mail you a CD? Part of me does not. I'll never see that record again, man. I know I won't.
No, you won't.
No.
So give me the CD.
Give me a minute. I'll figure it out. I'll get somebody who can help me do that. But you have my word. You're getting a copy.
All right. Okay, man.
Hey, man.
Great talking with you.
Much love, man. Take it easy.
Same to you. God bless.
Bless. Bye. What an honor to hang with Sherman Andrus, an incredible gospel singer, somebody who has just put in the time and sees little miracles happening in his life all the time, as we all do. That's it for the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, peace.